one of America's biggest late-night shows, just got pulled off air overnight. Viewers who tuned in expecting Jimmy Kimmel's usual mix of comedy and commentary were shocked to find out the show had been suspended, indefinitely. But this wasn't just a routine programming change. It came only hours after heated remarks from Kimmel about Charlie Kirk's killing, and the fallout has sparked a nationwide debate. Was this really about protecting viewers? Or is it a warning sign for free speech in America's media landscape? The controversy began with Jimmy Kimmel's monologues on Monday and Tuesday, delivered just days after Charlie Kirk was shot and killed during a speaking tour. Instead of keeping his remarks light, Kimmel zeroed in on the political firestorm that followed. He accused what he called the mega gang of twisting the tragedy, saying they were doing everything possible to score political points from Kirk's death. But that was only the beginning. When Vice President J.D. Vance jumped into the conversation, claiming it was a statistical fact that most political extremists in America come from the far left, Kimmel didn't hold back. With the studio audience applauding, he dismissed the statement as complete bullshit, citing a government study that pointed the finger at far-right groups as the bigger source of extremist violence. And then came the punch that lit up social media. Kimmel turned to January 6th, reminding viewers of the mob that stormed the Capitol and even threatened to hang the former vice president. Was that the liberal left, he asked, or the toothless army who stormed the Capitol on January 6th? Those sharp words, delivered with his trademark sarcasm, set off a wave of outrage. And within hours, the backlash was building. Kimmel's fiery words didn't just spark conversation, they triggered an immediate political backlash. Brendan Carr, the Trump appointee, chair of the Federal Communications Commission, wasted no time weighing in. He warned that any local broadcaster airing Kimmel's show could be risking heavy fines, or even the loss of their licenses altogether. It was a rare and very public threat from the nation's top broadcast regulator. That message sent shockwaves through the industry. Broadcasters suddenly found themselves caught between airing one of America's most popular late-night shows or facing government pressure that could threaten their very existence. Meanwhile, Trump's allies wasted no time framing Kimmel's comments as having crossed a line. To them, this wasn't just edgy comedy. It was an attack that demanded consequences, and the calls to silence Kimmel only grew louder as political pressure mounted. The political pressure quickly turned into corporate action. NextStar Media, one of the largest owners of local TV stations in the country, announced it would no longer air Kimmel's show. Its executives called his remarks offensive and insensitive, insisting that pulling the program was necessary to protect the public interest. Not long after, Sinclair Broadcast Group, an even bigger player with more ABC affiliates than anyone else, went a step further. Instead of broadcasting Kimmel, they announced that his time slot would be filled with a special tribute to Charlie Kirk. In their view, honoring Kirk was the right way to respond at such a sensitive moment. Together, these decisions sent a clear signal. Broadcasters were siding with caution. By framing their move as being in the public interest, they made it sound less like censorship and more like a duty to their viewers. But behind the scenes, it was obvious that political pressure was driving much of the decision-making. When the news of Kimmel's suspension broke, Donald Trump wasted no time celebrating. He called it great news for America, praising ABC for what he described as an act of courage. To Trump, this wasn't just a TV scheduling change. It was a victory in the long-running battle against what he often labels the fake news media. But he didn't stop there. In a familiar style, Trump used the moment to take shots at other late-night hosts. He mocked Jimmy Fallon and Seth Meyers, calling them losers and hinting that their shows could be next on the chopping block. And he reminded his followers that Stephen Colbert's show had already been canceled just 2 months earlier, framing the trend as proof that late-night comedy was finally being held accountable. For Trump and his base, Kimmel's suspension wasn't just a punishment. It was a symbol of shifting power in media, a sign that voices they'd long criticized were starting to fall silent. As soon as ABC pulled the plug, the conversation shifted from late-night comedy to something much bigger: free speech. Critics blasted the decision as censoring in real time, arguing that a comedian had been silenced not by bad ratings, but by political pressure. To them, this was a dangerous precedent. If even a mainstream host like Kimmel could be yanked off the air for his jokes, who might be next? But defenders of the suspension saw it differently. They argued there's a line between comedy and political commentary, and Kimmel had crossed it. For them, this wasn't about silencing free speech. It was about protecting the public from what they saw as inflammatory rhetoric at a volatile moment. That left viewers with a stark question. Was ABC acting out of genuine community standards, or bending to the will of political power? And depending on who you ask, the answer sounds very different. The suspension left the country split right down the middle. Supporters of the decision argued that Kimmel had gone too far, calling his monologue insensitive and out of touch so soon after Charlie Kirk's death. For them, his jokes weren't comedy. They were cruel, and silencing him was the responsible thing to do. Opponents, however, saw the exact opposite. To them, this was political silencing at its most blatant, a dangerous signal that criticism of powerful figures could be punished by stripping away someone's platform. They warned that if one network could cave under pressure, others might follow, leaving fewer places for dissenting voices to be heard. The debate only underscored how deeply polarized American media has become. What some view as accountability, others call censorship, and the gap between those perspectives is growing wider by the day. So far, Jimmy Kimmel has remained silent. No statement, no interview, no response to the storm that's taken his show off the air. And that silence has only fueled more speculation. Will he eventually return to late-night television, or has his career on ABC quietly come to an end? The uncertainty stretches beyond one man. With Colbert already gone, and now Kimmel suspended, late-night comedy itself feels like it's standing on shaky ground. Once considered untouchable, these shows are now caught in the crossfire of politics, culture wars, and shifting public expectations. And no one knows which host or which network might be next. At the heart of the story lies a question with no easy answer. Was Jimmy Kimmel suspended because of what he said, or because of who he said it about? What do you think? Was this a case of holding a comedian accountable, or a warning sign that free speech is being chipped away in real time? Share your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear your take. Please subscribe. Please subscribe. Please subscribe.